Radagast the Brown, everyone remembers him as the joke, the hermit, the one who just isn't involved in the plot. His name was Iwendil, lover of birds, and he was the wizard nobody chose. Yavanna forced him onto Saruman like a chaperone, and Saruman never forgave the insult, scorning him as simple, a fool. History mostly agreed. Radagast wandered off to the edge of Mirkwood, fell in love with beasts and green things, and let the Great War drift past him. By the mission's terms, he failed. Except here's the fact almost no one knows, and it's the best thing in his story. Near the end, Saruman set a trap. He sent honest Radagast, who had no idea he was being used, to lure Gandalf to Isengard with an urgent message. Radagast delivered it in perfect good faith, and Gandalf, trusting his gentle friend completely, walked straight into the tower and was taken prisoner at its peak. But before Gandalf entered, he'd asked Radagast one small favor: have your animal friends bring any news to Isengard. And Radagast, knowing no reason to refuse, did exactly that. Which is why, weeks later, the greatest of the eagles came gliding over Orthanc, and found the most important wizard in the world stranded on the roof and carried him to freedom. The gentle fool both sprang Saruman's trap and broke it, without ever understanding he'd done either. Gandalf's own summary is almost a laugh. Saruman, for all his genius, never paid enough attention to animals, and there's a quieter argument for him too. A wizard who spent an age being kind to every wild thing in the north may be the reason those wild things didn't turn hostile when the war came. Tolkien never fully decided whether Radagast failed. He just let him disappear from the tale after saving it, riding off toward old friends in the woods, never to return to the west. Of the five, he's the one whose failure quietly kept the world alive. The Blue Wizards, the two who were erased. Here is a fact that sounds invented. Two of the five wizards are such total blanks that when the films try to mention them, Gandalf pretends he's forgotten their names. That wasn't a joke about his memory. The studio didn't legally own the names, which only surfaced in books published after Tolkien died, so the movie simply erased them the same way history did. They were Alatar and Pallando, the two who'd volunteered as a pair, who wore robes of sea blue, the Ifrin Luin, and while the other three stayed in the west, these two turned and walked east, into Rhûn, into the vast lands the story we know never once visits, into Sauron's own backyard, alone, with no allies, and no eagles, and no hobbits to remember them. And then Tolkien did something he did with almost no one else. He changed his mind about their entire fate and died before settling it. In one version, his earlier, darker one, they failed utterly. Cut off in the east, they were corrupted, exactly as Saruman was, and became the founders of secret cults and dark, magic traditions that outlasted Sauron himself. In this telling, the line is brutal and final. Of all the Astari, only one remained faithful, and it wasn't either of them. But in the version he wrote near the end of his life, he gave them new names: Morine Tar and Romestamo, Darkness Slayer and East Helper, and a hidden, staggering importance. Here, they arrived far earlier, and their whole secret war was to stir up rebellion in the east, to keep Sauron's endless eastern armies divided and distracted. And it worked. Without them, Tolkien suggests, the hordes of the east and south would have simply drowned the west in numbers, and Sauron would have won in both the Second Age and the Third. In this version, two wizards nobody remembers are quietly the reason everybody else survived. Two robes, two names, two completely opposite endings, heroic saviors or lost cultists, and the man who made them went to his grave without choosing. They are the single greatest blank space in Middle-earth, proof that even Tolkien didn't know everything that happened in the world he built. Saruman the White, the greatest who fell furthest. He was supposed to be the one who saved everything. That's what makes him the most frightening story of the five. Curumo Curunir, the man of skill. The first to volunteer, chosen chief of the Order, the White, the head of the Council of the Wise, a Maya of the Smith God, which is why his mind ran to gears and forges and industry. On paper, he was the best of them. He believed it more than anyone. And his gift was terrifyingly specific. His voice, not loud, reasonable, warm. The kind of voice that made you feel foolish for disagreeing, that could talk a room full of enemies halfway onto his side before they noticed their feet moving. He didn't need armies to bend people, he had a sentence. So how does the best of the five become the worst? Not through a spell, through study. Saruman set out to defeat Sauron by understanding him, reading his ring lore, mastering his methods, staring into the enemy's craft for so long that hatred curdled into envy and envy into imitation. He stopped wanting to stop Sauron, he started wanting to replace him, a better Dark Lord, a kinder chain. Watch the small vanities pile up. He resented that the elves loved Grey, humble Gandalf more than him. He resented that they gave Gandalf a ring of fire and not him. He resented that Galadriel wanted Gandalf to lead the council in his place. Every slight traces back to a compliment paid in a Hall of Light an age ago, not as the third, and Kurumo, who remembered it, spent 3,000 years proving her wrong by becoming something monstrous. He even renamed himself, no longer Saruman the White, but Saruman of many colors, his robe shimmering into a broken rainbow. He thought it was an upgrade. White light shattered into fragments is just white light destroyed, and his ending is the cruelest of the 5. Cast down, stripped of his staff, reduced to a petty tyrant, he's finally killed by his own abused servant. And here's the detail the movies would never show you. As he dies, a grey mist rises from his body and turns toward the west, toward home, toward the gods, asking to be let back in. A cold wind comes out of the west, and it refuses him. The mist that was the greatest of the wizards sighs, dissolves and blows away into nothing. He isn't sent to some hell. He's simply unmade, denied even the mercy of an afterlife by the very powers who once handed him the world's last hope. The one who volunteered first is the one who gets nothing at all. Gandalf the Grey, the one who stayed. The reluctant one. The one who sat at the edge of the room and said he was too weak and too afraid. The afterthought. He is the only one of the 5 who never strayed. His true name was Olorin, and before the world's troubles, he was reckoned the wisest of all his kind. In the deep past, across the sea, he walked in the Garden of Dreams and sat at the feet of the one goddess who wept, the Vala of grief and mercy, and from her he learned the 2 things that would define him: pity and patience. He used to move unseen among the elves, slipping hope and good counsel into their hearts without ever asking for the credit. That's who he always was, not the mightiest, the kindest and the most stubborn about it. He came to Middle-earth last and afraid, and he did the job exactly as the gods intended, never ruling, never dominating, lighting fires in other people's courage instead of seizing power with his own. He collected names like Road Dust, Mithrandir, the Grey Pilgrim, to the elves, Farkun, Staffman to the dwarves, Stormcrow, and worse to the men who didn't want his warnings. And he carried a secret the whole time: Narya, the Ring of Fire, handed to him by the oldest elf on the shore the day he arrived, precisely because that ancient elf took one look at the tired grey stranger and saw what the Queen of the Stars had seen. Not the third. More. Then he walked onto a bridge under a mountain and met one of his own kind, twisted into a demon of fire, and he died stopping it. He fell into the dark, and he says he strayed out of thought and time, passed clean out of the world, and he was sent back, not healed, returned, by a power above even the gods, because his task wasn't finished. Gandalf the White isn't a costume change, it's a resurrection, ordered from the top of everything, spent on the one wizard who earned it. He came back saying he was Saruman as he should have been, the same office, filled at last by the right soul. And when it was all over, when the ring was gone and the age had turned, only one of the 5 sailed back over the sea to the land where they were chosen. Not the one who volunteered first. Not the 2 who marched boldly east, the one who almost didn't go, the afraid one, the one the gods had to command. That was the answer the whole time. Of all the Astari, one only remained faithful, and it was the one who trusted his own strength the least. 5 wizards. One traded the mission for comfort and saved the world by accident. One threw it away for a crown and was erased from existence. 2 vanished so completely that even their maker lost the ending. And one, the frightened one at the edge of the room, carried it the whole way and earned the road home. The gods bet the fate of Middle-earth on 5 old men and lost 4 of them.